Do you believe in stories that can change lives? Have you ever thought about a simple choice that could change everything? Just imagine a dark night, a group of men and women on a mountain, and from the sky comes a mysterious voice telling them to pick up stones. The next day, when they looked in their bags, the stones were diamonds, but most regretted not taking more. Are you ready not to let this opportunity pass by? Comment, "I'm going to get rich," and I'll leave a heart on your comment. Who knows, you might be the first millionaire in your family. Let's find out together. I hope that by the time we finish this video, you'll feel both happy and sad. I'm here today to show you the true path of diamonds, hoping you'll be happy for having picked up some diamonds and sad for not having picked up more. So when someone starts talking about the past, saying "I did, I was," it's a sign that this person is saying goodbye to life. Therefore, by renewing your hope, you realize you can set new goals and dreams. Now, I have a challenge for you watching. I'd like you to think about the 3 most important things that have happened in your life so far, from the day you were born until today. 3 significant and good moments. If you had to pick 3 moments to represent your life on this planet Earth. As the French Jesuit theologian Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." We are here on Earth to experience the human experience. We have good times and bad times. It's no wonder we are born crying because we know the challenges we will face in life. This planet is not a paradise. If someone expects to be happy 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, they're in the wrong place. Here we have moments of happiness and moments that are not so happy. It's part of the journey, like a roller coaster. In tough times, we know they won't last forever. They will get better. And in good times, we also know they won't last forever. They will get worse. This roller coaster concept can be helpful. So back to the challenge. Think of 3 special moments in your life, significant from birth until today. Choose one of these 3 moments. I'll assume you already have these 3 moments in mind. Know one thing. At least 2 of these significant moments were not planned. Maybe the day you had children, built a family, or the day you met your husband or wife. You didn't wake up one day thinking, "Today, I'm going to meet someone I'll fall in love with and marry." Right? On an unplanned day, you met someone somewhere, talked to that person, formed friendships, and later fell in love and got married. When you look at your life, you realize that magical moments were not planned. You were doing something ordinary, and suddenly something extraordinary happened. These are the moments we call miracles, although we don't always recognize them as such. For example, you go to the supermarket to buy a kilo of sugar, and while waiting in line, someone starts a conversation, and you end up receiving a tip that results in a big financial success, like winning $1 million. You went to the supermarket for a simple reason and left with an idea that could change your life. However, this idea will only materialize if you keep the hope in your heart that things will work out. If you expect the worst, it's better not to start because you probably won't succeed. As Henry Ford said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. If you believe you can, you'll work to make it happen and eventually achieve your goals. But if you believe you can't, you'll be paralyzed and everything bad you said will happen." Just like a cake requires several ingredients, life also needs several elements to be complete. One of these essential ingredients is the ability to communicate and dialogue. However, the first ingredient, I would say, is the respect you have for yourself, your self-image, and how much you value yourself. No one can give what they don't have. You can't offer love to others if you don't love yourself. You can't offer intelligence to others if you don't possess it for yourself. And you can't offer communication to others if you don't communicate with yourself. Therefore, the first thing God expects from us is to have self-love, to respect ourselves. This is called self-esteem. It's how we see ourselves. And here's some good news. Self-esteem and self-image are not materials like cement or steel. They are built through language. No one is condemned to remain as they have always been. I repeat, no one is condemned to remain as they have always been. We are the only beings on planet Earth with the ability to transcend. And do you know what it means to transcend? It means starting anew. It doesn't matter what happened in your childhood, the suffering until today. Your past was a necessary step to reach here. Your future is an opportunity to aim where you want. But if you don't realize this, your future will only be a repetition of past patterns. What patterns in your family would you like to change? Because, like any other, your family is not perfect. To become a doctor, you need to study medicine. To be a lawyer, you need to study law and pass the bar exam. To be a journalist, you need to study journalism. But to be a parent, the basics are enough. Have sexual relations, and children are born. Thus, parents, most of the time, are not prepared to be parents. They learn from the mistakes of their children, just as their parents made mistakes with them. Their parents made mistakes with them, and you made mistakes with your children. This is the dynamic of life. Don't blame yourself for that. It's simply how life works. We learn from our mistakes. With the second child, we make fewer mistakes. With the third, even less, if we reflect on what we're doing wrong. The second essential ingredient in life is communication. In the agricultural age, landowners ruled the world and their power was lifelong. In the industrial age, those who had money ruled. But today, my friends, the currency has changed and many have not realized it. Now the currency is knowledge. You can be rich or poor in knowledge. However, knowledge only has value when applied, when shared from one mind to another. And this is done through dialogue, through communication. Therefore, for the young people watching this video, communication has become crucial for both personal and professional success. It's part of human nature to evolve. You'll never meet someone saying, "I'm going to ask God for something to make my life worse because it's too good." I believe the Creator never heard such a request from anyone watching this video saying life is too good and wanting some difficulty. But difficulties come to strengthen us. It's part of human nature to grow, evolve. And just like someone climbing a mountain in search of the summit, you, young people, will see this in life. You will achieve your goals, attend college, find jobs, be promoted, start your own businesses. This is part of it. As you advance in life, perhaps the most important ingredient is dialogue, the ability to communicate, to express yourself, to understand others. Of course, I will present to you a dialogue model I developed. It is something innovative that you probably won't find elsewhere. Let me explain the concept first. If I give you a pearl now, you'll probably put it in your pocket. If I give you a second pearl next week, you'll also put it away. And if I give you a third and final pearl in 15 days, you'll also put it away. If we meet again in 6 months and I ask about the pearls, you'll probably respond something like this. The first one I put on the nightstand, but someone cleaning didn't notice and threw it away. The second one I forgot in my pants pocket, which was washed, and the pearl got lost. And the third one I kept so well that I ended up forgetting where. Have you ever hidden something from yourself, kept it so well that you couldn't find it later? This happens to us. Now imagine if I gave you these pearls and a nylon thread and instructed you to make a necklace with them and wear it around your neck. If we meet again in 6 months and I ask about the pearls, you'll know where they are. You'll say, "They're here. I turned the pearls into a necklace." My friends, the pearls represent ideas. The world is full of people who had good ideas and didn't materialize them, or worse, had their lives ruined by them. Did you know that a good idea can ruin a family or a company? That's because, more importantly than the idea, is having a model to ensure its execution. If you know someone with a good business model, whether in Sao Paulo, Tokyo, New York, or in Manila, the Philippines, or anywhere in the world, that person will succeed in business because they have a solid model. So, let's build the dialogue model. Communication has 3 levels. The first is from mouth to ear, the second from brain to brain, and the third is called heart to heart. Before proceeding, it's important to make a distinction. Hearing and listening are not the same thing. We hear with our ears, but we listen with our brains. Have you ever been to a restaurant and ordered sparkling water, but the waiter brought still water? You made a request and they brought something else. At that moment, the waiter was operating at level 1. At this level, no one gets promoted. You don't win people over and you don't progress in life, no matter how high your grades were in school, because the school provides information, but life demands competence to act. Imagine in Guarulhos, ready to board a flight to Sao Paulo, New York. If the pilot said, "I'm not a pilot, but I have many opinions and read many books about flying a plane," would you stay on the plane? No, you want to know if he has the competence to fly and land safely in New York. Life demands competence to act, because what is on the test is not necessarily what applies in life. Look around your city, and you'll find people who were brilliant in school, but are now lost in life. On the other hand, you'll find those who were mediocre students, but are now excellent entrepreneurs, contributing to the community. Why? Because they know how to dialogue with the world, with society, and have intuitively learned the power of communication. So, if you allow me, I'll start working on this model, starting with level 1, mouth to ear, then level 2, brain to brain, and finally, level 3, heart to heart. Before proceeding, I want to state that we only reach people's hearts by passing through their brains. There's no other way. It's easy to like those we already like. The real challenge is to like those we don't like. Deciding to like someone suddenly doesn't solve anything. That decision is purely rational. It doesn't touch the heart. If we don't like someone, it's difficult to reach their heart. The way might be to understand the person, their difficulties, where they come from, why they act a certain way. Finally, we accept the person when we can dialogue with them, when we are operating at the level where something happens. An example is when a father is lecturing his son, but his words go in one ear and out the other. The father doesn't realize he's been saying the same things for years, with no results, even causing rebellion in the son. When we speak without listening, it's not dialogue, it's monologue. As the saying goes, words convince, examples drag. The best way to educate a child is not with sermons, but with examples. They will observe the example and, over time, incorporate it into their own psychological structure. As I mentioned in a TV interview, a 45-year-old father talking to a 15-year-old son, the father needs to understand that the son has never been 45. While the 45-year-old father has been 15, parents need to level with the teenager to establish effective communication. I can only communicate with you if we address a topic of interest to all. If you have other preferences, I need to consider what interests you and start a conversation based on that, not just my own interests. Just like in a store, I wouldn't arrange the display according to my taste, but according to the taste of the customers I want to attract. For example, I have a store where my sister-in-law, who is a decorator, made a sophisticated decoration, but I sell popular products. If someone who likes the sophisticated display enters, they might not find what they're looking for, and those who would be interested in my products might feel intimidated to enter. In this case, the sophisticated decoration might be harming my business. In dialogue and communication, we should modify that saying that many attribute to the Bible, which says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." This works very well when it comes to something spiritual, but when it comes to communication, the phrase is more appropriately, "Do unto others as they would have it done unto them." For example, if I invited you to dinner at my house, I wouldn't serve my favorite dish without first asking what you like. In dialogue, it's important to start by understanding what the other person wants to hear, not just conveying what we want. Do unto others as they would have it done unto them. Let me tell you a story that exemplifies this. I met a businessman in Sao Paulo who told me about his twin brother. When he was 14, he had a fight with his family and went to Sao Paulo, where he became a successful businessman. 25 years later, he decided to bring his brother to meet him. He organized a party at a pizzeria because he loved pizza. However, his brother started to feel sick upon entering the pizzeria because he hated pizza. He tried to please his brother in the way he thought was logical, but forgot to consider his brother's preferences. This shows how it happens among us. It always happens like this. I want to show what I think, but don't care about what you will think. Isn't it true? Think about it. Nature gave us ears at the same level. So, what goes in one ear goes out the other. Then, the dialogue becomes a monologue because there's no response. To have a dialogue, I first need to have a strong message. You will only continue listening to me if you like what I'm saying. I need to have something interesting to convey to you. Second, we need to speak figuratively as Jesus taught. He told stories. How am I going to teach something to someone who has never left where they are? How did Jesus teach about spiritual things to those on earth? He used metaphors, told parables. When he told a story, you couldn't disagree with it because he was conveying an idea through the story. Pay attention to this important story. Once, there was an important ship full of gold, and suddenly the engine stopped. The ship's owner called the best mechanic in the region. He worked all day but couldn't fix it. Then, they called the best engineer in the country. He worked for 2 days, but still couldn't fix it. Finally, they brought the one who built the ship's engine. Even though he was far away, he flew to the ship by helicopter, listened to the noises, touched the pipes, and found a valve with a piece of red thread. He asked if they had a hammer, and they said they did. So he gave a hammer blow, and the engine started working perfectly again. The 3 workers who worked to fix the ship sent their invoices. The first, who worked for 1 day, charged $1,100. The second, who worked for 2 days, charged $200 a day. He was more experienced than the first. And the third worker, who fixed the engine with a simple blow, sent an invoice for $10,000. The ship's owner agreed to pay, but with one condition. He wanted to know how the third worker justified charging so much. Then the third worker explained, giving a hammer blow on a screw costs 1, and knowing which screw to hit costs $9,999. It's not about the hammer blow, but about the knowledge. Now imagine we're having lunch and I tell you this story. If you understand the essence, you'll see how it applies later in your office. You think about hiring me as a consultant and ask what my fee would be. If I give a high price and you say it's expensive, you'll realize I'm charging for the experience, not just the service. I prepared your mind to understand my point of view through the story, using a metaphor. Those who know how to dialogue make use of metaphors. Politicians who win elections are good storytellers, just like priests who preach sermons that everyone appreciates. When you tell a story, the critical mind calms down. You convey the story along with the message you want to convey, and that message fits into the listener's mind. Another important aspect of dialogue is using appropriate language. For example, if you're a doctor and start using complicated medical terms that only you understand, and then your patient goes home and the family asks, "What did the doctor say?" The patient will say, "I don't know. I didn't understand anything he said." You need to admit you failed to communicate. A smart doctor should use language the patient understands. Similarly, if you're facing a legal problem and visit a lawyer who uses complex legal jargon you don't understand, you get lost. It's like talking to the wind. It's crucial to speak the language of your interlocutor. When dialoguing with someone, it's not the time to impress with difficult vocabulary. The dialogue should be accessible to intelligent people without requiring intellectual sophistication to understand. Use technical terminology only when speaking with someone who understands it. Another important point is perception. What you're trying to convey may not be exactly what the other person is understanding. If you consider yourself a good salesperson, then your sales should reflect that. If you're not selling well, excuse me, but your sales approach may be wrong. Maybe your language isn't appropriate, your message isn't strong enough, or maybe you're not using the power of metaphors and stories. Recently, a client came here and I told him, "You may be talking to the current customer, but in fact, you're talking about what you did with the customer from last week, while the present customer listens." This is a metaphorical strategy that invites the customer to engage with your ideas, like a father who dialogues with his son. At the end of the dialogue, the son feels encouraged to try what the father is suggesting. It's an invitation that life offers you. Now I need you to understand one more thing. If you understand this, you'll be very successful in life, so pay close attention. We are judged by three things: our appearance, what we say, and how we say it, and what we say. In the part of how we say what we say, the model I'm discussing with you comes in here. There's a level where nothing happens, where you're just wasting time, where communication is superficial. For example, when we order sparkling water and receive still water because the order wasn't understood correctly. Many people are stuck in life because they can't communicate effectively. Communication is essential today. If you remove communication from the world collapses because information only has value when shared between minds. And this happens through dialogue. I mentioned that life is like a cake with several ingredients. We started talking about self-esteem and communication. Now let's address a little the other aspects. An important message for you, young person, watching us, and for young people of all ages: youth is a choice. I may be 65 years old, but I maintain an energy as if I were 18. I'm always looking forward, thinking about what more I can achieve in life. When I keep this focus, my body doesn't age. It remains full of energy. Not setting goals is a mistake. Do you know the concept of an hourglass? It has sand that hasn't fallen yet, the future, the sand that's falling, the present, and the sand that has already fallen, the past. The sand that hasn't fallen yet is the future, the one that's falling is the present, and the one that has already fallen is the past. Let's focus a little on the present. Do you know why it's called the present? Because it's a gift from God. No matter where you are, it's always here and now. Have you noticed that life is an eternal here and now? It's at this moment that you live. If you can't be present, it's like a cat crossing a hot roof, only feeling the heat. Many people are like this, dominated by technology, by the clock, by the phone ringing. They don't live the moment and then fall ill, tired, have trouble sleeping, and are unable to concentrate on something simple like reading a book. Let's go back to our discussion about the hourglass. The sand that hasn't fallen yet is the future. The sand that's falling is the present, and the sand that has already fallen is the past. Have you ever heard that the past shapes the present and the future? That's true. However, Einstein proved the non-linearity of time, meaning time doesn't follow a straight line. I'll show now that the future also influences the present, and the present can even recreate the past. Imagine you book a world trip for a month from now, and let's say today is Sunday. I guarantee Monday becomes more interesting. You have 30 days until your trip, but you're already happy in the present, just knowing you're going to travel. See how the future shapes the present. Have you ever heard the saying that says, often the anticipation of the party is better than the party itself? Remember that Christmas dinner you prepared so carefully, but it was ruined by a fight between your in-laws. The anticipation of the dinner was better than the dinner itself. Sometimes the anticipation is more exciting than the event itself. So if you have goals for the future, young people, please listen to me. Your present becomes more interesting. If you have no prospects for the future, then you're on the path to ruin. Like many addicts I've met throughout my life, they lost sight of tomorrow, thinking only of today. Those who live only in the present don't progress. These addicts use drugs and only care about satisfying their desires today, without even thinking that these drugs will cause harm to their health tomorrow. I hope you understand that the future shapes the present. I'll prove to you now that the present can also recreate the past. Once, an elderly lady about 70 years old came to me. She was going through a divorce and heard that, through my knowledge, I could strengthen her emotionally. She shared her story with me. Married for over 25 years, she and her husband decided not to have children. They had a routine where they spent the week traveling for work and met on weekends at a farm they owned near Sao Paulo. However, A tragic event occurred when the lady's aunt, who raised her and came to visit her in Brazil, suddenly passed away on the farm. Since then, she could no longer visit the farm, while her husband insisted on keeping the tradition of visiting the farm every week. This was causing a distance between them and consequently leading to divorce. I asked the lady why she didn't want to visit the farm anymore. She explained it was because of the aunt's death. I suggested a new perspective. Perhaps the aunt chose to die on the farm as a gift for her, to show her affection. I started to dialogue with the lady, conveying this different interpretation of the situation. She was attentive, though anxious to leave. In the end, she returned to the farm and has been married to her husband since then. I didn't change the fact that the aunt died on the farm, but I changed the way the lady interpreted that event. We can't change anyone's past, but it's important to understand that everything that happened in our lives served a purpose, perhaps spiritual, that brought us to this moment. Our future is an open possibility, and it's up to us to decide what it will be. We are the only animals on the planet with the ability to think about the future. I suggest we focus on the future because that's where we'll spend the rest of our lives. If we hold on to past resentments, we limit our future. Maybe someone hurt you in the past, and you haven't forgiven that person yet. And forgiving is not just an act of love, but also intelligence. Those who don't forgive are hurting themselves. Not forgiving is like holding a hot coal in your hand and expecting the other person to get burned. By forgiving our parents or whoever it is, we are releasing a weight from our shoulders and making room for a more promising future. You're still here, which shows you're very resilient, and I want to congratulate you for that. You deserve all the success in the world. To let me know you've stayed until the end, comment like this: until the end. When I see your comment, I'll give it a little heart. Now I'll leave 2 videos on your screen that I made exclusively to teach you about the habits of the rich, and I'm sure they will add a lot of value to your life. Click on one of them and go watch it. Do it now.